Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of the FPL Experts Take on SO5. I am Conor Aspell. Last year, I won John Nellis's FPL tournament and finished with a rank of 40k. This is my co-host, Max. Do you want to introduce yourself, Max?
Hello, my name is Max Rushden. I am the one and only Max Rushden, and I am also an FPL expert. I have 5 sub 50k finishes. Typically, I win my money league, so something to be quite proud of. And this is kind of amongst my first ventures into Sorare, so it's going to be a novel experience for us.
Yeah, I bullied him into playing with me at the World Cup, and you pulled out 2 limited cards and like 9 custom series cards, which are still just sitting in your account. You've never gone on to actually play the game or converted you from free to play to paid user. But that's absolutely fine. We're going to see if the two of us can successfully take down a card in SO5 because SO5 is not FPL. So some of the differences for people who might not know is the main one is that all actions are scored. You get something called an all-around score, where if you win tackles, you get shots on target, you make a pass even, goalkeepers get saves, everything contributes to it. That means that there's a massive pool of players that are viable. So, such as Declan Rice is not someone you'd pick in FPL almost ever unless it's in draft and he's got a double game week. But Declan Rice and Rodri, and even someone like Polina, these CDMs are some of the strongest players in SO5. Uh, in terms of the system for drafting, you get 400 points, and you need to all their scores are based on their last 15 scores, so between 0 and 100, with a minimum of 40. And so, for example, a good pick last year is that I picked up Ruben Diaz at 40 points, and then his level 15 went all the way up to 77 for this year. And so I managed to ride the wave all the way up. But I wasn't able to sell for profit. That once you buy at 40, you can only sell at 40. There's also insurance in case price goes down. So if you do buy a player, you're able to hold it. And so, for example, last year, I remember telling everyone when we went to that FPL meetup in London that Mitchell Rich is going to crush the league. And everyone was like, no, 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 Mitchell Rich doesn't go in the Premier League. And he did crush the league. And I got him in at 6.5. But then a few people went, damn, I'm wrong. And they just bought him at 6.7. You won't be able to do that in SO5. Yeah. So later on, we're going to make some big calls about who we think is going to rise in price. But for now, I'm going to do just a brief preview of the upcoming game week. So I'm a believer in that your expected points are basically how good you are versus how easy your opponent is. And this is a screenshot of the bookies odds. I'm not going to tell you which bookie because I don't condone betting, but this bookie thinks that Tottenham have an 80% chance of beating Sheffield. And so I did a post on Twitter that if you're not subbing in a Luton player and a player again playing against Luton, you are trolling. But Fulham are playing against Luton and they're only 60%. And so personally in my draft, I'm going to be focusing on Tottenham, Liverpool, City, and Arsenal. What do you think of these upcoming fixtures, Max?
Well, I've been watching Spurs a lot so far this season. Just found them the most entertaining team to watch. Like Ange has been doing an amazing job there. They lost Kane, but they've somehow managed to look better. Yeah, I've been really impressed with them, and I think I'm going to be focusing on them as well. They have a nice fixture against Sheffield United, who are sort of yet to prove themselves. They didn't spend a lot of money in the transfer window, and in fact, they kind of lost some of their better players. I really fancy Spurs. Uh, Liverpool, I would be somewhat confident in. I mean, they have a nice fixture against Wolves, uh, but they are currently missing Van Dijk for a few games. They're also missing Trent Alexander-Arnold potentially, and well, Robertson's kind of just been missing for the last 2 years or so. So we'll see how that goes for them. Outside of that, yeah, it seems like there are lots of one-sided fixtures this week, so it's going to be a fun one. Yeah.
Yeah. So got to be focused on those 4 teams. I'm just going to quickly then do a share of what Play Sharper is predicting to be the best players for this game week. And so up here we've got Madison, Thiago Silva, like again, lots and lots of the players we were talking about: Arsenal, Spurs, Liverpool, Man City, and even Bernd Leno gets a little shout out here. I think this is probably, yeah, due to the fact that he gets such good AA against big teams, but I don't see him beating his L15 or 50 by much against Luton. So, yeah, anyway, these are some of the big players. I'm going to now do a little bit of a team reveal for what my team's going to be. So I'm still getting used to these controls. I will hopefully be smoother in the future. But I've swapped over now to the Sorare for picking. And so I'm going to start off with my forwards. And I think Son is a must pick with this fixture. Even though Spurs are really, really good, their main benefit is in attack rather than defense. And so I'm going to double down on Spurs attack and get in Kulishevsky. Two pretty well priced players, not incredibly expensive. And yeah, I think I'm going to be stacking them this week. Next pick is going to be Shaboshlai. So as we mentioned there, Trent is out, and so we expect Shaboshlai to be on sets. Yeah, Shaboshlai to be on sets. He's really, really good. Scored an amazing goal for Hungary, and he, yeah, I think he's going to score really, really, really well. My next pick is going to be my little overperformer. I think it's going to be Fabio Vieira. I absolutely really don't rate Kai Havertz at all. Whenever he comes off and Vieira comes on, Arsenal get a lot better. You can see in his last two performances, he had a 79 against Fulham and a 65 against Man United, both off the bench when Havertz went off. I think it's just a matter of time before Havertz gets dropped, and then we start seeing Fabio Vieira playing instead. And his 41 will look really cheap when he starts getting L15s that look like 70s and 60s. In defense, I'm going to go with Josko Gvardiol. He is pretty much the cheapest City defender. And playing Pep Roulette is a bit dangerous in SO5 because you don't have a bench. But I think Gvardiol is going to be locked in for City. And my other defender is going to be just a just in case pick. It's going to be Pau Torres. Not a lot to say on it. I just think he's really, really good and should do well. In goals, I think I'm going to go with Aaron Ramsdale because 40 points, you can't go wrong. I think you pretty much have to choose between Aaron Ramsdale and Dean Henderson just to get the 40 points locked in. And then my last pick is going to be Ederson in goal. And confirmed draft, and I'm going to show my team. It's going to be Ederson plus Gvardiol plus Shaboshlai plus Son plus Kulusevski with captain Son. So what do you think of my team, Max?
I think it's quite a good team. I think you're playing the field a little bit. Think of RDL pick. A little bit risky. I think he's most likely to play on the left side of a back three, primarily. That's what they've been playing for the last while. And there's also Ake there, who's some fierce competition for him. Ruben Diaz is probably going to be in the middle. So it's basically one of two picks. Guardiola probably in the long run will end up being the favorite. When he plays, he'll do well, but you could say likewise for Ake. I think City have about 10 excellent centre backs. So yeah, it's a tricky one. The
Yeah,
Shabash
this one.
really like. I think he looked really good in the last game. Scored an excellent left-footed goal. He's got great technique. He's a very technical player playing in the midfield, and despite his age, I think he's only 21 or 22. He looks like a very mature player. He keeps the ball a lot. He keeps things sticking, and yeah, he's got a rocket of a shot on him. So I think he's a nice pick. Spurs attack, good. Yeah, Son, excellent. He looked really good last game. He had a bit of a dry run. We'll see how he does without Kane. It's one good game, but he has gotten into some dangerous areas, and like I mentioned earlier, Spurs just look electric this season. Kulishevsky, awful pick, but everyone else is I like everyone else.
Yeah, Kulishevsky is one of my favorite picks this year. My FPL team called Kula Kulishevsky. He double forward is a bit risky, but I think the fact that both Son and Kulishevsky are both involved in the attack and should a good AA should cover me. And so I'm hoping to get around 400 points. And hopefully, if I'm not like everyone dreams of finishing in the prizes, I've never finished in the prizes, but hopefully to finishing in the top 5% of players, that's the goal. And so, Yeah, that's my team. Max, do you want to share your screen and I can take apart your team.
Sure, let's do it. Okay, so here we go. So like you, I'm going to start with the forwards. First off, I'm going to have Martinelli. Uh, he has, for me, consistently been Arsenal's best player for the last 8 months or so. I think he's looked really excellent when he's played. He's often outscored in FPL by Saka because Saka is, of course, on penalties. Recently, I've heard that Saka has been struggling a bit with I think it was a groin injury, maybe a knee injury, which would explain his form not being quite as strong as Martinelli's. But Martinelli seems to consistently have the beating of his man for the last while. I think he's a really nice pick, and he is my first forward. My second forward is going to be
Can I
Anthony
bring it
Gordon.
back to Martinelli for a second? Because I watched the Fulham game and he had Kenny Teddy on toast. Like I've never seen anyone have Kenny Teddy on toast. And especially because on the far side, Anthony Robinson had Saka, was kept winning duels against Saka. And I thought that, yeah, Arsenal's attack wasn't going anywhere. But then whenever Martinelli got the ball, he forced Teddy into mistakes. Then eventually Teddy gave away a penalty. And it was one of those really unfortunate things, whereas because of Martinelli's pass, that Teddy gave away the penalty. But the foul, I think, was on Vieira.
Yeah, that rings a bell. Yeah, he's a great player. I think he had a great season last season, and I think this season he could be even better. If Arsenal are going to do well, they're going to depend on him a lot. So he is my first pick. My second pick, another player who I think his team will become quite dependent on, is Anthony Gordon. So Anthony Gordon has not set the world alight, I would say, since he joined Newcastle. He looked really good at times for Everton. Other times he was a bit quiet. But for England at the under 21s Euros that's just gone, he was probably the best player. Looked a level above most other players at that competition. And recently he's been just looking really solid for Newcastle. I think Newcastle have been a bit patchy. They a lot of people would back their defense, I think, with the run of games they have coming up, but they are yet to keep a clean sheet this season. So I'm not really sure how I feel about their defense as of yet. Maybe later I'll bring a defender in, but as of right now, I'm backing Anthony Gordon. I think he's going to have a great season. For my midfield, I am going to start with a little bit of an obvious pick. I think you mentioned him earlier. It's James Maddison. I think I mentioned that I've been watching a good bit of Spurs this season, and he is a man who passes the eye test with flying colours. He creates so many chances. If not for Richarlison's finishing, he'd probably have about 6 assists already this season. Now that Richarlison is unlikely to be in the team, I think Solomon is likely to take his place with Son up front. I can see Maddison banging some points out, especially against Sheffield United. So he is going to be my first midfielder. My second midfielder is is a bit of a surprise, probably. It's going to be Billy Gilmore. So let me tell you about Billy Gilmore, right? Billy Gilmore, 3 years ago, League Cup, Chelsea versus Liverpool. One of the best performances I've ever seen from a midfielder. He put on a show. Since then, he's gone a bit off the boil. I'd say he's been maybe parboiling since. He joined Brighton, I think, in January or maybe in summer of last year, and found it really hard to get into the team. But as you can see, in his last game for Brighton against Newcastle, he was excellent. I think I watched the game and he put on a great performance. It was reminiscent of his game against Liverpool, and I think he's back. I think he's back. I'm just going to say it. I think he's back. Billy Gilmore is back, and he's here to stay. And that's why he's in my team. A cheap pick at 46, low risk, like you said, because in Sorare, the prices won't change for me personally. I'm not using all my budget right now. I want to kind of stick and see what changes over the course of the next few weeks. So he is my next pick.
That's the thing with
And Madison as
but
well.
where you have to make these kind of ballsy picks that you think will rise in price. And so like I think Vieira will end up in the 60s and 70s. Like Gilmore's been very much been outperforming his L15 for a while. In a very good team. He should be locked in. There is a bit of a risk of Dahoud coming in, but I never rated Dahoud at Dortmund. So I think I'd agree with you on Gilmore being an interesting pick. I don't know if I'd pick him, but he's interesting.
It's a fun pick, and I just see potential in the guy. I think he's on for good things. And if Brighton are good, I think it's highly likely that he's going to be keeping things ticking. He's going to be keeping a lot of passes moving. Like you mentioned earlier, Declan Rice and Rodri are two of the better players in the game. I think he's kind of in a similar position, Billy Gilmore, and I think he's a player who doesn't lose the ball a lot, and he has a lot of forward passes over the course of a game. So, I like him. My first defender that I'm going to pick is going to be Pedro Paro. So Pedro Paro, I'm going to say, I think he's the next Maynor Figueroa. A lot of people won't agree with me on that because they don't see the same level with Pedro Paro that they might have seen with Maynor Figueroa back in the day. But I think Pedro Paro will be the first defender since Maynor Figueroa to score from inside his own half. I've seen him try it a couple of times in training. That's right. I'm always at the Spurs matches, at the training sessions. Their little 7-a-side games. He's very good at scoring from his own half, and I reckon it's inevitable. It's only a matter of time. That's got to be worth some points in Sorare. So, yeah, Pedro Paro is my next pick.
Target is a shot on target. Shot on target is 3 points. If he wants to shoot from halfway and get 3 points,
A lot. I don't know if you've watched many Spurs games, but whenever he gets forward, he seems to have a shot.
He gets forward a lot. He's one of these guys that has a lot of penalty area entries. That's a dream you really want for a fullback, is that they get in the box, they get a penalty area entry, they get the final third pass. That's extra 0.8. They get the attempted assist for +3. They get the big chance created for +3. And then they've got whatever 7.5 points for that one action, even if they don't score.
Yeah, and Spurs have been really solid defensively as well this season. I mean, they kept the clean sheet against Manchester United, of course. I think they have 2 clean sheets this season. Vicaria is looking solid in goal, despite, I think, people not having a lot of expectations of him. He's been really good. So I trust him, despite the fact that Pedro Paro will spend most of the time in the opposition box. I trust Vicario to hold on to that clean sheet. As you can see from the preview, my next pick is going to be Matty Cash. Now, Matty Cash, he is a reliable goal scorer as of recently. It doesn't matter which box he's in, he's probably going to score. So Villa have been a bit hot and cold. I think in the games they're expected to win, sometimes they can underperform. Against Liverpool, they weren't very good. I mean, you can see that he scored a 3 against Liverpool, where against Burnley he scored a 93. I've noticed that this season he's been getting into the opposition box a lot, similarly to Paro. So when he has a nice game, I'm probably going to be picking him. I do anticipate that he's going to up that score of, I think it's 47.
L5, yeah. If you hit the L15 beside you, he's L15, it's like in the 30s, 36. Yeah, that's crazy. He's got L15 and 36, but he's got a 61, a 93, and a 60 there. And he's also got no competition right now. Like, he's 99% to start for Aston Villa. There's no one else that can come for him. He's nailed on a start, minimum price. I'd give that a good pick. Good pick rating from me.
Yeah. And next, I am going to go for my goalkeeper, and my main goalkeeper is going to be Alisson. Now, I alluded to this earlier, that Liverpool are going to be missing Van Dijk. They're going to be missing Trent Alexander-Arnold, most likely, and Robertson, hasn't been setting the world alight. Liverpool are going to be conceding chances against Wolves, but the nice thing for them is they're against Wolves, and Wolves are sort of notorious for, well, not being able to score chances. You saw Onana tried to give them the chance to score as many goals as he could against United, but they just refused. They outright refused. And I think, Alisson is the type of keeper where if a team really doesn't want to score, he won't let them. So I really trust him.
Even when they do want to score, I still have nightmares about the Fulham game versus Liverpool last year, where Fulham, well, basically Paulinho had something like 15 duels won and 3 duels lost, and Fulham had a massive XG, and Alisson saved every single shot, and then Darwin Nunez had this horrible dive that the VAR apologized for not referring, and Liverpool won 1-0. I was horrified by it. So yeah, like Liverpool just sometimes their defense is we don't throw all our fullbacks forward and pray Alisson bails us out over and over again. And it happens.
Yeah, it does happen. I mean, I think he was the reason they got into the Champions League a few years ago, that header that he scored at the end. So maybe he'll go forward for a header the odd time and score me a nice 100 points. So my last pick is going to be, well, I think it's quite obvious. It's going to be between Aaron Ramsdale and Dean Henderson, and I'm going with Dean Henderson. So with Henderson, my thought is Crystal Palace under Roy Hodgson. They're a team who love to pack their box. Because of that, uh, they are mostly going to be conceding long shots, and I think Dean Henderson is very well equipped for dealing with long shots. He's also, it's been a little while since he's been playing a lot of football, but he is a great penalty stopper. And I think if they do concede a penalty, there's a good chance that he'll save it. So a nice one to pick up points, a really nice one at a score of 40, and definitely just more trustworthy than Aaron Ramsdale. I'm pretty reliant on Dean Henderson keeping his spot in the team, where Aaron Ramsdale, I wouldn't be so certain. So he is going to be my
Crazy thing. Like Sam Johnston is so good.
Sam Johnston. I mean, they signed him for a reason, right? They signed Henderson.
Yeah, he's like if you're confident in Henderson, you got to do it. But saying that he's more nailed on than Ramsdale, who's starting every week, and Henderson literally has a 0. But on the other hand, he keeps a clean sheet or 2 clean sheets, and he's the best player. All of a sudden, he's the highest rated keeper in the game. Then, well, in this league, then I kind of get your point that he could very easily. And I also remember Hodgson at Fulham way back in the day that in his second season, Fulham just turned into this monster defensive team with Schwarzer in goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like Arsenal also signed a keeper. Palace signed Henderson. Arsenal signed a keeper too. So I wouldn't say that I would 100% trust Ramsdale. He's been a bit shaky. Some people would say that maybe he was part of the reason that Arsenal started falling out of the title race last season. I know he had a good start to the season, but end of the season he was looking shaky. Start of the season, not great. So, we'll see. So my team, my selection, it's actually kind of obvious. I have got a few budget picks who I'm hoping are going to pick up some form over the course of the season. So my picks are going to be Martinelli, Anthony Gordon, James Maddison, Becker, and Pedro Parra, who will score from his own half, with Maddison being my captain. So go on, tell me, how do you feel about that team?
I do like it. Especially I like the Madison in their captain. Just all the numbers are saying that Madison should be the highest scoring player of the week. And to have him in there and be captain, that's obviously great. I'm a big fan of the stack, but yeah, there's no one really that jumps out at me that to stack with Martinelli or Gordon. I think to swap out Martinelli for Isaac would be kind of insane, even if it is a nice fixture. And Martinelli has been great. Unfortunately, Saka has been swapped over to a midfield card, and getting Nketiah instead of Gordon
Jesus?
is hard. Jesus even as well. Like that, there's no your X minutes aren't there. You want your player on the pitch for 90 minutes, racking up AA the whole time. And so I think Gordon and Martinelli, even though like to me, I want to have the 2-2-1, having the 2-1-1-1 is also pretty valid, especially in this game week. This is almost a bench boostable game week in FPL where you've got
Yeah.
whatever 5 teams with 60% odds or better. But yeah, overall, I love your team. You kind of like my team. We'll see who does better. Also, make sure to join Quinny's League for this weekend. And yeah, I think that's it for this week. Next week, we're going to be focusing more on the swaps. I'm going to do a game week review as well. So, see you guys next week, and thank you for watching.